Hello, it's Dr. Laura Mock, the life coach for busy dentists. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm so happy to be back here with you today. And I am here to talk about how to generate real change as a leader in our practices. And so, if you're a dentist, with your team, if you're not a dentist but you perform in some leadership capacity, all these principles work for you as well. So recently, I made a fairly ineffective effort to make a change in my office. And as usual, I'm the one who shows my vulnerability. So I'll just go ahead and tell you the crappy thing that I did. You can laugh at me or just learn from my mistake. So I needed, and this part I support still in this situation, I needed to make some more clear guidelines as far as how my team was paid, especially with regards to continuing education and time off, things like that, outlier situations. And I needed to do this, number one, to make it fair for the whole team, and also because I need to protect the viability of my practice because the costs are going up of operating, and I really needed to just kind of um, control what was happening as far as the payroll is concerned. So I came up with an announcement. It was like a 2 paragraph explanation of what the new rules were and also the some of the rationale behind why I was making the change. And I wanted to present it to everybody like at a team meeting, but I was feeling kind of rushed, which was my first mistake. I really should have waited until a better time. But I was feeling rushed and I really wanted to talk to them that day, but I had an emergency patient over lunch. So guess what I did? I printed off a bunch of copies of the policy change, and then I went into the lunch hour, interrupted their lunch, read it out loud, and I said, if you have any questions, come talk to me in private. And then I ran back to see my patient. And I think as I read it, everyone was like, what the fuck is going on? They're not used to me doing anything like that. So they were really thrown for a loop. And I'm pretty sure I did not generate happy, fuzzy feelings that day. Now, there's another time recently that I initiated some change. And this time I did, excuse me, a much better job. What my goal was, well, first of all, to explain, we have in our dental practice, we have daily meetings. They're just really quick meetings, and they're in the morning and in the afternoon at the end of our treatment day. So we synchronize our process in the morning, and then in the evening we come together and we celebrate each other and we thank each other for the work that we did and for helping each other. And it's a really wonderful time. And honestly, if you added it up, these meetings cost me so much money. I mean, even in one day, it's for sure over $200. But I completely believe in these meetings, and I feel like they're worth the meeting, the time, and the money, and more. So I wanted a change for these meetings, and the change was that I wanted to keep them more positive. Sometimes the ladies would come together and there'd be some belly aching or some complaining about the day. And honestly, I truly understand why they would complain, because when we go through something hard, we want other people to see what hard thing we did, and we want to commiserate. We want to go, yeah, that was hard, or whatever. And it's fine. I have no problem with commiseration at all. It's just that with the cost of these meetings, I wanted to pay them to focus on what I wanted, if that makes sense. So I wanted more positive meetings. And so this is what I did. I took a container of wine corks. I don't know why I had so many laying around at home. And I put the container of corks in front of them and I said, each of these corks represents a portion of a budget I have set aside for us to have a party at the end of this quarter. And they're like, okay, tell me more. The party is for celebrating having more positive huddles. And every time somebody makes a negative comment in the huddle, I am going to take a wine cork out of the container. And so that'll be a little bit less that we can use towards our celebration. And they kind of all looked at me and nodded their heads. And it's been a few months since then, and I've only had to take out one cork. And it was at the beginning while we were just getting used to, just kind of remembering that we need to stay positive in our meetings. So when we have our party in a month or so, we really are going to be celebrating the fact that we changed the culture of our team meetings. So now you might be asking yourself, why was a second situation so much more superior for changing the behavior of my team in a positive way? And now is the part where I get to coach-splain. I made up that word just now. Coach-splain the differences between these situations to you as a leader. So it's important to understand at the beginning of this process that as I explain this to you, I want you to keep in mind that all living beings on this earth have patterns of behavior. These patterns of behavior are designed for nature's purpose. So usually nature wants you to stay alive and they want you to pass on your genes to future generations because that is how life works, okay? Now, when we talk about these living beings having patterns of behavior, we might be talking about monkeys or lizards or dolphins or even plants. They all have these patterns, and actually Homo sapiens has patterns of behavior as well. And this is one of the important patterns that we want to know as leaders. We as Homo sapiens take actions based on our feelings, which come from our thoughts. So, for example, let's pretend I'm 19 and I'm walking down the street and I look across the street and I see a handsome man looking at me. He's looking at me and he's kind of smiling at me. And you can imagine that at that point, he might come across the street and come talk to me. And then what happens after that, I mean, you can put into your imagination, right? But if we dissect this situation in terms of actions, feelings, and thoughts, then I'm walking down the street and I might think to myself, oh my goodness, there is a potential mate. Or it's probably not something so scientific. So it might be something like, he's kind of cute. And then what comes next is the emotion or the feeling of all those hormones kind of bubbling up from the stomach and making me feel like maybe I want to be closer to that person, you know? And so he might come towards me, I might welcome it, and then everything goes from there. And if nature has its way, then what comes next is a baby, right? So, I'm just using this as an example, okay? I'm not 19. I'm not looking for strangers to mate with. But that's an example, okay? Now, if we think of this concept of thoughts leading to feelings, leading to actions, we can apply this understanding to how we lead as leaders. Because the people that we lead are also Homo sapiens. So they have this pattern of behavior where the reason that we take action is because of how we feel, and we feel things because of what we're thinking. Have you ever thought about how your team feels each day coming into work? Now remember, this is really important. I've talked about this before. They are responsible for their own feelings. However, you are the leader, and because of that, your leadership provides thoughts about their work and also their worth. So I wrote down some examples of things that your employees might be thinking to themselves. My boss likes it when I do this. My boss has shown me that I'll be rewarded for this extra effort. How about this one? She won't notice if I don't do this. Or, this one's even worse. She always gets mad if I try something new and I don't do it well, so I'm not even going to try. I mean, what do you think an employee would feel if they thought that to themselves? Probably discouraged, and then their action leading from discouragement is probably inaction or hiding. You might be able to think for a moment about what your team thinks about during the day and therefore their feelings and their thoughts. I mean their feelings and their actions. So if you want a certain action from your employees, then you need to think about how they need to feel to take that action. And then once you figure out what they need to feel to take the action, then you need to think about what thought you can introduce to create that feeling. All right, so let's take apart my plan with the wine corks and the team meetings. The action that I wanted was to my team to refrain from making negative comments or to offer positive comments. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cough. The feeling that I wanted my team to feel in order to not make those comments was motivated or empowered. And the thought that I introduced for them was, we get a party and it's really not that hard of a change. It's pretty easy. So if I make this change, then I get a better party. This system is not perfect. Because remember, people are responsible for their own feelings. You can't force it. You can't take a feeling or a thought and put it inside somebody else. Trust me, I've tried with my 19-year-old daughter. It doesn't work. But if your employees are open to your leadership, it helps a lot. Your leadership is the key to giving them these thoughts, which will then lead to the feelings and the action. And you're going to need to practice, and you can start small. And this is really important. If they are not open to your leadership, they might be better off finding a situation where they are open to someone's leadership. In other words, you might find that you would like to invite that person to seek a new opportunity. So what I'm saying is, if you're using excellent leadership and you're giving persons really good reasons to make a change in their behavior and they're not open to it, it might just not be a good fit. And that's okay. And your brain is probably going to go, but I need Kelly to work today because she has all these patients or whatever, and it's fine. But just understand that when you say, I need this, you don't really. Because honestly, you could cancel Kelly's patients. Or you could sell your practice and move to Montana and sell and grow lavender for your life. Like, you don't have to do anything, is what I'm saying, okay? And it's really important to have employees who are open to your leadership so that you can generate this change. Now, if you're still listening, then you obviously like this subject, and maybe you appreciate my teaching too, because you even put up with listening to me cough while I made it. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because this is not my only video. There are many other videos about leadership and our thoughts and our actions and how we feel as dentists. So I'm going to include in the link to this video a link to my website, thelifecoachforbusydentist.com. And if this is something that you want to work on, if you want to work on your leadership, then I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate likes and comments and shares and subscribes. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.